Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are, wherever you're tuning in from. Welcome to the Actors Area. I'm your host, Sean Robert Grant, aka Reverend Sean Robert Grant, and happy to have you guys with me joining in today from around the world. We're going to do a bit of a different format today, which I'm excited about. And yeah, I think I know it's going to be fun to dive into some of the backstory behind my career, and it's all the things that I've learned, and I've shared some here. But today's a bit different because I've never really shared this story in detail, um, unless I've personally known you. But I feel like it's time because one of the most important things is for us as actors and performers is to remain motivated on the path, on the trajectory of just basically following what we love to do every day of our lives. And that looks completely different for everybody. But as long as you know you're doing something that is allowing you to be your best, and allowing you to feel good about where you are from a career standpoint, you're batting 1,000, as they say in baseball. So I want you to know that it's a big deal if you can do that. It really is. So before I get into that, though, once again, guys, thank you for joining me from all the way around the world. You guys are just phenomenal. If you have any questions, I'm here for you. shaung04@gmail.com. Please don't hesitate to send me an email. And got some stuff going on, but I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. So with that being said, let's dive into today. And so I was mulling over, I'm like, okay, what's a really good story to tell that would help inspire you today or whenever you're deciding to listen to this? And it had to be something, I think, like I've had a lot of success, and sometimes that success has come easy, but the reality is you don't learn anything from me or anybody else when it's just easy success, and it takes some time to really get to that point to where you don't have to struggle in order to succeed. So I picked out a story, and it's a really, really powerful story, I feel, because it really tested whether or not I was going to stick with performing and stick with being an actor. And it happened so early on, not just in my career, but in my life. Right. So let's get into it. Grab a cup of tea or a bit of coffee and let's get into this. So when anybody asks me, when did you really start acting? And I always say, when I committed to being an actor, it was December of 2007. And I remember that because the very first speaking role that I had ever had was King Erroneous's Castle, which was a UNO, University of New Orleans film that I was able to participate in as cop number 2 or something like that. And I had, I want to say, maybe 4 or 5 lines in this student film, and I just loved it. Like, I was walking around set playing with the gun the whole time in the middle of a nice, New Orleans neighborhood at Lakeview, if you're familiar. I think it is the area we were shooting at. Anyway, I was just so excited and thrilled, and that was in December of 2007. But what most people don't know is I actually got a huge opportunity to be in a film in 2004, right? So I was born in 81, 2004. I was 23 years old. I think I was either already turned 23 or was just about to turn 23. And the Ray Charles movie titled Ray was coming to Louisiana to film, starring Jamie Foxx, Regina King, Wendell Pierce was in it. Clifton Powell, I don't know if you recognize him or not. Lorenz Tate was in this film. I mean, there were so many stars in this film, and they were deciding to shoot in New Orleans because New Orleans could look like all of the places that Ray Charles had traveled. And so, my eyes just lit up. Like I had thought to myself, I was like, you know what? I really like want to be involved with this because it'd be really neat. And I wasn't playing football anymore, but for me as a child, performing was really something that I loved and I loved to do. It was a love of performance and a love of creative expression, which just put me over the moon, which is why I do all the stuff that I do now. And so I saw this and I was like, I got to be in this film. I really want to be in this film. And so there was an audition, mind you. There was an audition for this film. And it was at the University of New Orleans. And it was at the I guess, the part of campus where they have their studios and they do their theater and stuff like that. And I just remember going to this audition, and there were like 375 people all showing up to audition for this film. And I was like, holy hell, what? How many, did everybody else hear about this? So here's an interesting thing to know about this. To be a performer is to think of something and to dive into performance per se without the thought. To truly be a performer is to dive in without the thought of what am I getting in return. And I can guarantee you, I would probably say 340 of those 375 people that came to try out for that movie were there because it was all about being on TV and much less being a performer, right? So I remember I was a bit nervous, but I wasn't too nervous because I just knew there was something inside of me, even at that age, that said, you know what, I'm going to figure this out. And what's even crazier is that the parts that I was going for, or one of the parts that I was going for, was as a dancer, behind Ray Charles as he's playing the piano, in the nightclubs and stuff like that. And so it was a bit of what they used to call specialty work on film sets where, you're kind of like a glorified featured extra, except you're doing a lot more movement. And so they give you more pay and stuff like that. But it was really, really neat. But anyway, so I can remember being at this audition and they split us up into all these groups. So it was 8 or 9 different groups. And they really wanted to see what you had. And they didn't even tell you what kind of dance they were looking for. They just wanted to see how you moved. So the choreographer got up, and mind you, I had, other than performing at my school, growing up, I had no dance experience, none whatsoever. But I could move, I could cut a rug, I could carry a beat. And so the choreographer gives us a couple of dance steps, dance moves he wants us to do. And then he's like, all right, we're going to separate you guys in groups of 8 or 9 or something like that. And so each group goes up and certain people, you can tell they're just not going to cut it, right? They just didn't have the rhythm. They couldn't really follow the steps. And for a lot of folks, just dancing to the music would have been fine. But the moment they gave steps to follow, it was done deal. I mean, it wiped out literally, I want to say 50 to 60% of the people there when this guy started giving dance steps and dance moves to complete. It wiped out so many people. And so I remember we all had numbers, right? And they got, put a little number tag on our shirt or whatever. And as we're doing these moves, they're writing down who they're going to keep. I didn't know that till after the fact, but they're writing down. And so, you go through one, I think it was 2 or 3 rounds we went to, and each round they would make the choreography a little bit more difficult, not like Michael Jackson difficult, but difficult where you had to pay attention and you had to keep up. And so I mean, the whole time I was like, I had that stress sweat going on my underarms. I was like nervous. I was like, damn, okay. Every time I think I get close, they're like, okay, we're going to another, we're going to get another round going here. And you see more and more people pick up their bags and leave, pick up their bags and leave. And I made it the first round. And I'm looking around. I'm like, okay, this is pretty good. I went in the second round. I made it the second round. And I didn't expect, that was the funny thing, I didn't expect to make it the second round. But I got in and I did my best. And they picked me. And then the third round came around. They were looking for, I want to say, a total of like 10 to 15 people to dance throughout the entire movie. And it got down to, I want to say we were down to like literally 25, 30 people. Actually, you know what? I think it might even be less, the amount of people they had, because they wanted couples, right? So they wanted like 5 couples to pretty much dance in a few of these scenes. And so anyway, we go into the last little bit and they give the choreography and they give us 2 chances to try to get it right. Like 2 opportunities to get it right after the guy shows us how to do it. And I said, you know what? I'm not a professional dancer, but I can cut a rug. I can keep a beat. I'm just going to do my best with it. And let me tell you, it wasn't perfect by no means, by no stretch, but I did it. And basically they said, okay, leave your number, leave your email. If you've been selected, we'll call you. So a few days go by and I'm not really thinking about it. I'm like at work and I get a call from this unknown number, because before, well, they might still do this, but back in the day, they would call you from an unknown number so you couldn't call them back. And this was the time when I had this big old Nokia phone, I would actually answer it. And so I answered the phone and it's like, hi, this is such and such from This and That Productions. Is this Sean Grant? I was like, yep, this is Sean Grant speaking. He's like, well, Sean, congratulations. You've been selected to dance in the movie Ray. And I was like, what? Get out of here. I was like, oh, I was so excited and so thrilled. And it's like, so we just got a few steps we got to go through before we get you on set. We're going to have you show up and go through wardrobe. And so I had the first opportunity to go through this huge Universal trailer of wardrobe where they're just picking out clothes that were perfect for me and stuff like that. And that was a really special time because I had never experienced it. I saw Jamie Foxx walking through wardrobe. I see Regina King, and then Clifton Powell was another guy I saw. And it was just like, wow, like these are real people. You see them on TV all the time, but they're real people. So I did the wardrobe and then I went to makeup. And at the time, my hair was so long, they literally asked, are you willing to cut your hair? Because during that time, the guys had short hair. I was like, oh, it took me like 2 years to grow my hair out like this. Are you like serious? I have to cut it? It's like, yes, you got to cut it because, during that time, the men had short hair. So I take a deep breath. I'm like, you know what? Just cut it. And I mean, he cut all of my hair off. The hair and makeup guy just cut it all off. And like, I think I shed a tear once I saw my hair falling on the ground. But you know what? I was at that point, I was ready to go. And they said, okay, so what happens now, I met up with one of the production assistants. Is what happens now is you're going to go through some rehearsal. And after rehearsal, we're going to set you up on your days of filming. And, we're going to be good to go. And so all this is happening. And I'm just like 23 years old, wet behind the ears, trying to be perfect. And there's a lesson I want to tell you about being perfect. In a situation like this, you don't need to be perfect. You just got to be yourself. They chose you for a reason. See, I didn't know this then, but I know now. They chose me for a reason. And that reason, whatever reason it is or was, got me to be in front of the camera. And so I remember that now because I'm more aware, I'm more mature spiritually. And I understood, you know what? They picked me. I don't need to unpick myself by making up excuses as to why I'm not good enough to be here. So I put all of that aside and I went full throttle. And I tell you, I went to these dance practices, these rehearsals, and I was like sweating bullets, and like my sweat was flying all over the floor. And I was really into the moves, and I would stay later. I was really dedicating myself to doing this, so much so to the point where, the guy who was choreographing was like, you're doing a really great job. Like, it's going to be really good to see this come to life on camera. And so, the first day comes along of filming for us, and we're sitting around a lot because they got to paint the whole set for some reason. But we get on set, and I mean, it's absolutely electric, and it's finally fun and just a thrilling experience to take all you've done and put it on camera and just have a good time with it. And it was awesome, like just completely amazing in every sense of the word. And then, that day wrapped, and then we came back, I think a couple days later, and did our second day once again. No hiccups. Everything was going fantastic. It was great. It was just like absolutely amazing in every sense of the word. And I'm just like, I'm loving this, man. This is what I want to do. Like, I love just performing. I love being around, the camera and just seeing all these stars and everything. And it was just like, it's like, and so here comes the third day. It wouldn't be a story if there wasn't any adversity involved in it. So the third day comes, and this is my big scene. And in the other scenes, I was always dancing with a group of couples, right? And so, there was some FaceTime there a little bit, but this is like my big scene. This was me dancing as a couple with one other girl and Jamie on the piano playing as Ray Charles, and it was only us, right? It was only us. And so, we're getting ready to shoot the scene. You can tell this is like tense. There's so much tension because they're trying to make sure they do it in enough time and whatnot. But, I'm keeping my calm. I'm feeling good in my outfit and stuff like that. And, we get ready to roll. And so this is, as the tradition goes, camera, roll sound, speed, whatever, and action. And we start, going through the dance moves and stuff like that. And I'm feeling on top of the world. I'm feeling so good. And I'm like, this is it. And I could see the camera panning in my face. Director's like, smile, have a good time, get into it. You guys are doing great. And then he yells, cut. And I'm like, okay. All good. And so they go and they talk literally after the first take for about, I want to say 5 minutes. And I'm just kind of looking because I'm always, I always eye the director because that's the one who controls everything in the AD as well. And so I notice them talking, and then they look at me and I'm like, oh shit. Like, why are they looking at me while they're talking? So I just try to play it off. Right. Well, after that conversation, the AD, the assistant director, first AD, comes up and he says, Sean, can you step out for a bit for me? I'm like, sure. Yeah, I can do that. And so I step out, and then next thing you know, a production assistant comes out and, grabs me around the shoulder, and we walk outside of the set. And he said, look, there's no easy way to tell you this, but, one, the shirt that they gave you is really taking a lot of attention off of Jamie. And secondly, because you're a bigger guy, you're also taking a lot of the energy off of him. Now I can laugh telling you this story now, but when I tell you, my 23-year-old self just was about to shed so many tears because I was so upset. I had trained for that. I worked in production for this moment for it to come for me to give my close up. And they literally, without hesitation, in one take, pulled me out of the scene, put somebody else back in there, waited for the guy to get dressed up in wardrobe. I watched him walk on to that scene that I was doing, and he winds up shooting the scene as opposed to me. And after that, it was kind of because that was kind of my last day on set. um, that was just kind of it. And there was no apology. There was no, um, we're so sorry this happened. It's like, no, this happened because this is the way we want it, and that's how it's going to be. And so the entire time I sat on set, just kind of in a corner by myself, just wondering, like, well, what did I do? What did I do to deserve this? What did I do to where did I go wrong? Like, I just don't understand it. And the greatest lesson I could have ever learned about film sets, about situations like that, was just don't take it personal. Understand what happens for you. Okay? What happens for you. Now, I'd be lying to you if I didn't say I was emotional, because I was super emotional. Like, it hurt. And so much to the point where I had to think if I ever wanted to do this again. And sure enough, this was in 2004. And notice I don't tell people I started acting until 2007, right? So this experience scarred me so much, or I allowed it to scar me so much, I didn't get back into acting for another 3 years. I actually tried to go back into play football, right? Professional football, before I got back into acting. Excuse me. So it scarred me so much, but what it really did, it scarred my ego, right? I was so gung-ho about people seeing me in a film, and about, people watching me run across the screen and smile and watch my dance moves and all. It was so self-absorbed and self-centered, my reasons for doing this, that I often feel like, you know what? I wasn't ready for it, because if I was ready for it, I was just out there I would have just been out there to share my gift. I would have just been out there to have fun. I would have just been out there to just be free and be open and contribute to the production. But because my reasoning was completely selfish, I got ripped out of the scene, right? Pulled out of the scene. And that was that. And I watched the scene. I watched that scene in the movie. I couldn't even watch it for the first few years the movie was out. But then after I dealt with what I was going through, I was able to do so, because I understood now, right? The universe can only give me what I'm giving. And the fact that I was doing what I was doing for selfish reasons, right? It even showed. Like, I stopped acting completely until 2007 came around, because I was just like, I'm done with this, man. I can't do this anymore. Like, this is just like, this ain't for me, But like I said, the most important lesson to this story, the most important key to this story is this. If you're going to do this, and you know what? It's fantastic to make a whole lot of money. It's fantastic to be famous. It's fantastic to be your best and let other people see your best. But here's the thing. Your inner life has to be on point, has to be of a higher vibration, has to be of a higher purpose for you to do it, or else you're going to lose it, right? How many actors we see, boom, get thrusted onto the scene, and then next thing you know, there's no longevity. But then you see ones that come back year after year after year, long periods of time, and they are just doing it over and over and over again. Because here's the reality of it all. And here's the whole point of this story. If you go into something with a selfish reason, you're going to get a selfish result, period. That's how the universe works. That's how it's always worked. You can't go into something with a selfish reason, because selfish results are going to unfold for you and for anybody, right? The universe does not discriminate. But if you go into things, if I would have went into this environment, this thing, maybe it would have been different, maybe it wouldn't have. But the fact of the matter is, the science tells me it could have been a different ball game, because my values were of a higher nature. My intentions, my perception was of a higher vibration, a higher nature, right? A higher purpose. It could have worked out differently, but it worked out the way that it did to show me, to allow me to know Now, being almost 20 years ago, it allowed me to know that, oh, okay, you know what? If I'm going to do this, I got to really be into it. And I can't be doing it because I'm going to show up somebody else. Because that was a big thing too. Like a lot of the stuff I did in my life before I learned to deal with my emotions was, oh, I'm going to show you I can do this. I'm going to do it really well. And I'm just separating myself because I'm only doing it to prove somebody else wrong. And that only lasts for so much time before it just kind of burns out and fizzles out. But once I discovered, you know what? I'm going to act because I love to act. I'm going to perform because I love to perform. I'm going to inspire and uplift people, actors, performers, everybody, because that's what I love to do. And I'm excited for each and every time I get the opportunity to share that. Now, I tell you, if I could tell 23-year-old Sean that from where I am today, I know he would have enjoyed it so much more. And if that would have happened, it would have been like, you know what? There's nothing to worry about, nothing to be concerned about. This is for the best. It's going to somehow or another work out in my favor. What a difference 19, 20 years makes, right? So, like I said, the moral of the story is get rid of the selfish reasons, right? Do it because you love it. If you do something, you do anything because of love, you are 100% going to succeed one way or the other, because love is by far one of the highest vibrations in the universe. And it just, love behind everything makes sure everyone wins. And that's the beauty of it. Selfishness, self-centeredness, not so much, right? Selfish reasons create selfish results, right? But if we have generous, benevolent reasons and purposes for what we do, we're going to thrive, and we're going to continue to thrive. And it's going to be fun because we're going to thrive so much. The people around us are going to start to thrive because the energy will be infectious. And if anybody does come with any type of selfish reason, you're going to know intuitively, and you're not going to surround yourself with it. So I give you this before we go. If you find that your career may be at a standstill, if you find that you're not getting the success that you really desire and deserve and want for yourself, check in. See if your motives for being an actor, performer are because you love it, because it makes you feel good, right? Because you know that it's your calling. Or see if it's because, you know what, I'm a show Sherry, from sixth grade, that I can be a performer. I'm going to show all of them. I'm going to show my teacher. I'm going to show my family, because they never believed in me for anything or anything of that matter. I'm going to show all of them that I can do it, and I can do it really well, right? Guess what? It doesn't work. It burns out before long, and then you're like, well, where did I mess up? You messed up because you started with, I'm going to prove it to you, instead of, you know what? I love you. You go do your thing. I'm going to do my thing. It's all love at the end of the day, right? So with that being said, start with love, act with love, end with love, give love, be love, have love, express love, create love, whatever it is, and you can't go wrong. Guys, 28 minutes. What a story. But I just feel so much greater inside actually telling that story. And I really hope you enjoyed it. And I'll be coming back. This is only part one. I'll be coming back with another story to tell, because I got so many of them, and you're going to be so, excited when you hear it, because it involves a lot of the people from the entertainment industry and stuff like that. So I'm thrilled to share it with you. If you have any questions, please, by all means, write to me at SeanG04@gmail.com, and I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. With that being said, guys, wherever you are, in the morning, the afternoon, the evening, the night, have a good one either way, and we will talk soon. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.